Good morning to my friends. Good morning to all you baseball friends. We're getting started early. We like to wait till the sound comes through the chat room. Good morning to everybody. I won't say hi to your names yet because you can't hear me yet. So, let me just check the sound, and when we get on here, usually it comes through pretty quick on Saturday. So, this is Saturday Fantasy Baseball. Do. Lots of action yesterday. All right, we're going live. We are live. I knew it would be quickly, and sound is good to everybody. Good morning to King Hap and Jolene. Good morning to Boston Paul and Diana. Good morning to everybody. Good morning to Tommy Johnson. Good morning to Chris from Cambridge, who always puts in the chat room whose birthday it is today. And today it happens to be Tom Gordon's 57th birthday. That's a great addition to our chat room. So thank you, Chris from Cambridge, for always updating us on whose baseball birthday it is today. Now we're going to get talking. There was a lot of non-tendered yesterday, 63 non-tendered to be exact. We're also going to talk about a couple of trades. Now, when we talk about the non-tenders, we're going to touch on a couple of them. Hello, Jolene. Great to see you. I hope you kick everyone's ass in fantasy football. I've been rooting for you. We women stick together. It's wonderful. So, all right, 63 players non-tendered last night. A couple of notables include Nick Senzel. All right, we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about this guy, Andrew Knizner. Lenny calls him Knizer. You spell his name Knizner, right? So we're gonna talk to him. We're gonna talk about him today. What, Lenny?
Catcher for the Cardinals.
He's a catcher for the Cardinals. I said we're gonna talk about him.
Okay, sorry.
Austin Meadows, Jacob Stallings, Rowdy Tellez, Brandon Woodruff, okay, that's an interesting one. We'll talk a little bit on him today. Dakota Hudson, Luis Guillermo, Daniel Vogelbach, Lou Trevino, Austin Nola, another catcher. Now this Andrew K. Knizner, non-tendered by the Cardinals, enters free agent catcher market. He's got some upside for this guy. He has upside on both sides of the plate, meaning that he's a switch hitter. He's age 28, and he never really got an opportunity in St. Louis, and we'll talk a lot about opportunity as the offseason continues to roll on. We talk about opportunity because fantasy matters. Opportunity matters in fantasy. It matters in football. It matters in baseball. There is nothing that matters more than an opportunity, okay, to play. You can't really rack up stats if you're on the bench. So this guy, not very well known, didn't get a lot of opportunity in St. Louis. He still was 13th in isolated slugging among catchers in 2023, and he is also very well respected with his game prep for pitching staff, which we know doesn't count in fantasy, but it certainly counts to get you into games, okay? Now, the Milwaukee Brewers let Brandon Woodruff go. Their contract talks broke off. They said they had to make a very difficult decision. He was with the organization for 10 years. Brandon Woodruff, they say he represented the Brewers with class, kindness, heart, and toughness, although he wasn't tough enough to stay healthy. He's missing all of next season, and they're not just going to pay him $11 million to sit there and rehab if they have a choice, right? Good morning to JR Matt. Good morning to the whole Matt family. Moose, Mikey, Danny, everybody. Leonard Donaldson, great to see you. Chris Gallo, how was golf yesterday? You said it was wonderful day for golf. Wondering how you did. Every day that you get to golf is a good day. Hulkster Daniel Ferrara is here. There was something I wanted to tell you about. we're gonna touch a little on Eloy. Maybe that's when I thought of you this morning. I thought of you this morning, Daniel, and I can't remember why. So maybe it will come to me as we go. Trevor Bauer put on Twitter, X, okay, a congratulatory tweet to Garrett Cole, who we all know these two have not had the best camaraderie over the years. They played together at UCLA, but when they did pitch together, they made it to the World Series. And Bauer has come out a couple times and said, our little brawl, whatever, our dislike for each other ended a long time ago. He likes to nudge Garrett Cole sometimes. I don't think Garrett Cole likes him one bit. But Bauer he did make a post. He said, "Welcome to the club," told Garrett Cole that he's finally being recognized for something that he's deserved for a long time. He also mentions that it's pretty damn cool that a pair of college teammates now both won Cy Young awards. He wants to know if this has ever happened before, or is it a first for two college pitchers on the same team to eventually both win the Cy Young. We don't really know, but it brings up an interesting point because a lot of people talk about Bauer potentially going to the Yankees, and the bottom line is you can't put these two on the same team, right? Because they don't like each other one bit, and I think that Trevor Bauer is making an effort to try to prove to Yankees fans and the public that they can get along on the same team. Even though they didn't like each other at UCLA, they still managed to get to the World Series. Now, the Yankees do need a pitcher. There's a lot of, I don't think I've ever seen in my life, I don't know if there's ever been a more divisive player than Trevor Bauer. And you see him trending a lot lately because we know that he's working on getting back in the MLB. He did a good job last year. But beyond the fact that you either hate him or you like him, or you either, it's one or the other. There is no in between on, okay, well, I could live with Bauer, or he's okay. No, you either like him or you hate him. And it's fascinating to me. Of course, there's a lot of people out there that hate him, and there's a lot of people out there that think he should never be welcomed back. But it's not Gary Sheffield Jr. He posted on Twitter, and he's talked a lot about the Bauer thing. But, he's a name in baseball, and he says that one of his latest posts on Twitter, he talks about a couple of the gripes that he's heard about Bauer that are hilariously inaccurate. He says, number one of the gripes is Bauer hasn't pitched in the big league in 2 years. And that's true. Neither has Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and he's about to ink over $200 million. And yes, he hasn't pitched in the MLB, but this guy throws every day. Nobody throws more baseballs than Trevor Bauer, and that's a fact. The number 2 misconception that he hears about Bauer is that Bauer and Cole hate each other. He says that's just a fake story that people ran with because they want it to be true. Gary Sheffield Jr. has figured out the sports media vultures and how they work, okay? He's calling them out, and I really appreciate it. He says, number 3, Bauer is a locker room cancer, and his teammates hated him. Sheffield says, really, because multiple teammates that run podcasts this past year have openly discussed enjoying Bauer in the clubhouse. You can have your own personal opinion on Bauer, but that has nothing to do with the decisions a baseball team trying to win should make. What do you think about Gary Sheffield? And believe me, I know there's people out there that don't like Bauer, and I respect that 100%. It's nice to see when baseball players come out and tell these media vultures what they don't want to hear, because it really sets them off. Speaking of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who's never pitched in the MLB, right? He's expected to be posted on Monday, and that means that the 45-day negotiating window will open on Tuesday, right? Here's a couple of things to know about Japanese baseball. The differences are that the ball is smaller. The ball is stickier. The strike zone is bigger. Do you think that's going to matter? Now, how many Japanese pitchers have we seen come over here and have a full, long career? Not many, okay? You got Ohtani, but there's a couple that I could think of right off the top of my head, like Dice K, okay, who might have been decent for one season until they figured out that all he did was nibble, okay? Dice K stink. What about the guy for the Yankees, Chin Ming Wong or something? I don't even know if that's the name. It's just the first name that came to me. But there's been several highly touted, highly, what's the word? Like when you're excited for somebody to come over?
Hyped.
Very hyped Japanese pitchers that have not made it happen. Okay, now, that doesn't matter. He's going to get signed, no doubt about it. The negotiating window starts on Tuesday. He's expected to be posted Monday, and the negotiations will begin the following day. So that's exciting, right? Oh, Hideo Noma was good. You're right. That's absolutely true. And J.R. Matz mentions that it seems like the Japanese league is catching up to MLB. Good morning to Mitchell Hartson. Great to see you. That's not true. My first pick will not be Bauer. I don't have to pick him first. Why would I do that? It makes no sense. I'm going to get him for like $3, especially in leagues that Boston Paul isn't in. But I'll get Boston Paul to spend way more money than he wanted to on Bauer, because he's going to just try to outbid me. And I'm just can't wait for that to backfire on Boston Paul. The Rockies have acquired pitcher Cal Quantrill from the Guardians. You know, I like Cal Quantrill a little bit. I have to admit, I liked him way better as a Cleveland Indian. This is the thing. Obviously, the Rockies is one of the worst places that he could have ended up, okay, because the ballpark is obviously a hitter's ballpark, and I wish he would have went to any other team. I still like Cal Quantrill as a number 3 in a rotation, not your fantasy rotation. He's more like a number 5 or 6 for your fantasy rotation, but he'll slot in as a number 3 starter for the Rockies. And I'd like to know what the chat room thinks. Obviously, it's not the greatest landing spot for Cal Quantrill, but do you think he has any hope? I mean, did it change any of your minds in thinking, well, Cal Quantrill could fit on my fantasy team in the later rounds of the draft? And all of a sudden now you see that he went to Colorado and you say, no thanks to Cal. Triple play, great to see you. King Hap says Cal Quantrill is a scrub though. He's making money while he can. He'll be out of MLB after his contract is over. Boston Paul says Quantrill on a downswing, although he did say to me just the other day that he liked Cal Quantrill. So what do you mean he's on a downswing? I guess because he signed with Colorado.
He pitched good at home.
What?
He pitched great at home. At home, he pitched great.
He pitched great at home. The Atlanta Braves acquired Jackson Kowar from the Kansas City Royals in exchange for Kyle Wright. Also, the Cleveland Guardians acquired Scott Barlow from the Padres for Enyel de los Santos. They also signed Ramon Laureano to a 1-year contract, avoiding arbitration. Atlanta keeps on trading before last night's the non-tender deadline. This time they sent right-handed pitcher Nick Anderson to the Kansas City Royals instead of non-tendering him. Also, the Dodgers, Giants, and Mariners are potential fits to land J.D. Martinez, according to John Morosi. Meryl, great to see you. You and Mitchell here today. Wonderful. He says he's checking in, ready to play Roto with Soto, have a gallon of whiskey, go to jail with Freeman, ride a rickshaw with Kershaw, and visit Manassas with Manassas. That's great. Meryl, you always have such witty things to say. Good morning to James K. John Morosi, we talked about him. Now, okay, Daniel, here's the thing. Chris Getz is the White Sox GM. Talking about Eloy Jimenez, says that teams are interested, obviously, and he says, it just has to make sense for both sides. Basically, this GM said nothing except for the fact that they're open to listening to offers on every player. Nobody's off limits. Obviously, it has to make sense for both teams. Eloy, he did say that he checked in with Eloy, who is down at the Dominican winter. He's down there in the Dominican playing baseball. He said that he looks great. He's already fully activated, and he said that he's just doing really good. So obviously teams are interested in Eloy. But does he really want to give up such an important piece of this team? Daniel, Malpal is over in Chicago at a card show, and guess who he gets to meet today? Ozzie Guillen. Yes, sir, Ozzie Guillen at the card show in Chicago. I got to get to one of these. I got to tell Ozzie Guillen I'm his biggest fan, because I am. And I want to bring up to Ozzie, dude. One time, Ozzie Guillen could not find Bartolo Colon when he was a White Sox, and Ozzie was the manager. He came on TV, and he said, I can't find Bartolo Colon. Nobody knows where he's at. He said he disappeared after Michael Jackson died. He was a huge fan of Michael Jackson. I want to know from chat room people, do you remember Ozzie Guillen losing Bartolo Colon, literally? How fun. Okay, the Mariners announced the acquisition of infielder Luis Urias from the Red Sox. Isaiah Campbell is headed to Boston in a 1-for-1 swap. Now, Luis Urias was 26. He was a consensus top 30 prospect in baseball entering 2019. He struggled in limited playing time with the Padres, and he ended up getting shipped to Milwaukee in the deal that brought Trent Grisham to San Diego. Urias struggled again through the shortened 2020 season with the Brewers. He hit .239 with a .308 on-base percentage in 41 games of the club's 60 games. Fortunately for the Brewers, he broke out during his age 24 season and proceeded to be an above-average regular for the Brewers over the next 2 seasons. Now, this will be interesting. Yes, Kyle Wright got traded. Gleyber Torres had the 12th lowest strikeout rate among qualified hitters this year, okay? Mike Soroka bounces back from all the injuries, pitches well enough in the first half of 2024 to either get traded at the deadline for something or sign a team-friendly extension with the Sox. We'll see. That's just an opinion. That's a prediction. What do you think of Mike Soroka? He hurt his Achilles twice in a row. This injury takes a long time, at least 6 months of wearing a cast. Mike Soroka was still in a cast when he tore it the second time. Jared Schuster. I like Schuster. I'm going to be paying attention to Jared Schuster, okay? These are all just projections. I don't like other people's predictions. The Braves today declined to tender contracts to Colby Allard, Yanni Chirinos, Penn Murphy, Angel Perdomo, Michael Tonkin, Chadwick Trump, and Lucas Williams. Atlanta now has 30 players on the 40-man roster. So clearly Atlanta will be making some additions. How's the chat room doing, everybody? Can we get some interaction from people besides Boston Paul? I still appreciate you, Boston Paul. Where is everybody, though? The New York Yankees traded outfielder Jake Bauers to the Brewers. They traded him for minor league outfielders, Jace Avina and Brian Sanchez, are coming. Now, you know our friend Chris Northrup. She does a Yankees podcast, a video podcast. And I'll be joining her one weekend in December, so I'll make sure to chat and tell you guys all about it so you can come and listen live and chat. All right, let's talk about the rule changes. Rule changes, what did they do? We've experienced a full year of it now, so let's just say this. These might have been the most important rule changes of modern times, possibly in any sport. Right? The pitch clocks never stop ticking. The games no longer drag toward midnight. The pitch clock, let's talk about that first, okay? The pitch clock definitely made an impact. That's why we're speaking of that rule change first. In 2021, the average game time in minutes was 190 minutes. In 2022, it was 184 minutes, and in 2023, it was 160 minutes. In 2022, there were 13 nine-inning games that were 2 hours and 15 minutes or shorter. In 2023, that number, guess what it was? It's amazing, 170 games. 170 games of 2 hours and 15 minutes or shorter. That went up from 13 in 2022. There used to be one game that quick every 2 weeks, and now there were one every single night. Now, games of 2.5 hours or shorter. In 2022, there were 84 nine-inning games that lasted 2.5 hours or less. In 2023, there were 678 games that lasted 2.5 hours or less. Now let's talk about games of 3.5 hours. In 2022, there were 232 nine-inning games that lasted at least 3.5 hours. This past season, there were 9. 4 of them were in September after rosters expanded, and in 7 of those 9, at least 16 runs were scored, so at least there was a good excuse. But one more thing here, we've literally killed the 4-hour game. How many nine-inning games lasted 4 hours or longer in 2023? You got it. It was 0. There were 39 2 years ago and 19 in 2022. But even if you include extra inning games, there were only 6 4-hour games over this entire season, and every single one of them lasted 12 innings or longer. Also, we talk about the pitch clock, the clock violations and how hard it was going to be for the players, and they really did adapt throughout the season. There were a lot of forced automatic balls in April, but it literally, if you look at the graph, it's a line graph, and it literally just plummets. As the months go on, the players did adapt to the pitch clock, no doubt about it. And come to find out, as the season is over now, you could say that about 2 of every 3 games were played without a single violation. After July, only 2 games featured more than 2 violations by both teams combined, and from opening day through July 17th, there were 14 pitch clock violations that resulted in either an automatic walk or an automatic strikeout in the 9th inning or later. But after that, there was just 1 by all 30 teams combined. What about the shift? The shift, which overloaded one side of the infield and swallowed up hundreds of hits. It's obviously history now, and nobody misses those fly balls to right field that got caught by the third baseman. How many violations of the shift would you have expected this? How many violations of the shift ban would you have expected this year back on opening day? 100 or 1,000? You know how many there actually were? 4 all season. Now, what was the impact that banning the shift had on the portion of the population that was supposed to celebrate that change the most? Left-handed hitters' batting average on ground balls did go up. It went up from 226 to 239, but it was still lower than it was as recently as 2017. So the impact was modest. The pitchers are not allowed to make 12 pickoff throws to first base anymore. And we've just finished a season with more stolen bases per game than any year since 1997. Listen to the stolen base success rate. 80.2%. It was the highest ever. The rate of stolen base attempts, 1.8 per game, was the highest since 2012. 5 teams stole at least 150 bases. Only 3 teams stole that many in the previous 10 seasons combined. It was the first season in the 21st century featuring 5 teams with 150 or more stolen bases. SM King Turd brings up lots of fake panic of, oh God, the new rules will ruin the playoffs or a big moment, and it didn't happen. It's 100% positive, which means baseball will probably screw it up. Chris from Cambridge says the pitch clock is only for people with short attention spans. It speeds up the game on the field, but the game is still just as long on TV because they just add more commercials. Meryl, you're great today, dude. Keep it up. J.R. Matt says he hates the micromanaging rules. The shift, pitch to 3 batters. Can't alternate pitching with right and left-handed. Chris from Cambridge says most old school players now don't get the shift. He talked to Kevin Minch, and the most common response from former players was, we would just hit the other way. And that is so true, but players now aren't expected to learn how to hit to the opposite side, which makes no sense to me. I mean, if you're the best in the world, be the best in the world, right? You're telling me you can't figure out how to hit the ball to the opposite side of the park? Just at least, come on. Anyway, we got a lot of good stuff going on in the chat room. Leonard Donaldson says the only thing he would change is to allow a pitcher 2 throws to a base once they have thrown over. The race is on. That's true. So, we talked about the stolen bases. Ronald Acuna Jr. stole 73 bases. It's the most since Jose Reyes stole 78 bases in 2007. In 2023, 6 players stole 40 or more bases for the first time in a decade, and 51 players stole 20 bases or more. That's the most since 1989. So I'd like to know from the chat room, give me your input. Where does this go from here, right? 80.2% success rate. Don't you think a lot of players are thinking to themselves, maybe we should have run a lot more than we did? So do you think stolen bases will go up or down next year? I say they go up. I mean, that just kind of makes sense, right? Was it based on the bigger bases? Was it based on the limits for the pitchers to be able to throw? Whatever it was, right? Liddy and I argue on that on a daily basis. But whatever it is, it's creating a lot more stolen bases, and the fact that they're successful 80% of the time. Now, maybe that has something to do with the fact that managers just aren't letting crappy base runners have the green light to steal bases, right? Maybe they're just saying, we don't need you to risk getting an out trying to steal a base if you don't have your head on straight. Although there was a lot of stolen bases, a lot of people stealing bases, I think it's going to continue to go up. But with all the power now in baseball, it doesn't make sense for managers to say, oh, go ahead and you have the green light to just run and risk an out, when the chances are good some guy coming up to bat in the near future is going to be able to hit you home, right? All right. SM King Turd. Baseball was dying a slow death with 3-hour games and 3 true outcome baseball, and it was hard to watch. Leonard Donaldson talks about the launch angle, or what they used to call an uppercut, not contact hitting. Chris from Cambridge agrees with me that it was based entirely on the bigger bases and the limited throws. Well, which one? J.R. Mance says the thing about stolen bases that struck him last year was how close so many calls were. Catchers are really doing pretty well making it close most of the time. And I agree with Big Al on the Prowl, who joined us with his company. Stolen bases will definitely go up. All right, we want more action, less dead time, right, King Turd? How much more action was there? We're talking about over 1,600 more runs than the year before, nearly 1,300 more stolen bases, more than 1,100 more hits, nearly 1,500 more base runners, okay? But there wasn't nearly as much waiting around for all that action to unfold. The average time between balls in play dropped by nearly 30 seconds, from 3 minutes 42 seconds last year to 3 minutes 13 seconds this year. And that's a level baseball hasn't seen since 2009, according to Baseball Reference. Also, based on attendance data, local TV ratings, and the significant increase in people watching entire games on their favorite mobile devices, that's telling that the rule change architects, that they did a good job, and they are, their brain. Theo Epstein is one of these people. We could call him the rule change architects. Theo Epstein is doing it up there. He's might be the lead guy on the rule change, okay, dynamics, and he says he's not done. They're gonna go slowly though. According, you could tell a lot about MLB's intentions on rule changes by watching the minor league, because they try the rules there before they bring them to the majors. And last year, we didn't see any new ones being used, so we can expect no new rule changes. But, all right, let's talk about the Marlins trade. SM King Turd brought this up to me yesterday, and I would say he's most interested in the one player that we're going to talk about. Now, the Marlins traded infielder Eric Lora. He's only 17. All right. They traded Eric Lora and Andrew Lindsay and a player to be named later for Calvin Faucher and Vidal Brujan. Turd is obviously interested in fantasy. He's interested in Vidal Brujan. But I do want to touch on it. I wrote just a couple things down about these other players. Infielder Eric Lora, he's only 17 years old. He played in the Dominican Summer League. He hit .305 across 154 plate appearances, but clearly he's only 17, so he's not really fantasy relevant for a while. Also, right-handed pitcher Andrew Lindsay, he's 24, he's still in single A, and he will be starting the season at single A. Also a player to be named later. Now, the Rays traded to the Marlins right-handed pitcher Calvin Faucher. He's 28, he's got a biceps injury, and he's set to return February 1st. He was actually DFA'd by the Rays on Tuesday. He is now getting a new home with the Marlins. He is not very good so far. 7.01 ERA and a 1.68 WHIP through 25 and 2/3 big leagues game in 2023. He ended the season on the 60-day injured list. But let's talk about Brujan, okay, Brujan. What do we think of Vidal Brujan? Here's one thing I know. Now he is a Marlin. Now he is a Marlin. Where is he going to play, though? And Turd says it's interesting if he gets an opportunity to play. And the one thing he's got for sure in his favor is the fact that he plays every infield position except for first base, which he plays. I'm sure he could if he had to, but he played in the minors last year. He played 29 games at second, 15 games at shortstop, 4 games at third base, 9 games in the outfield, and in the majors, it was the same array of spots that he played. Second base, third base, shortstop, and outfield. That gives him a better chance of getting to play, but even on the depth chart, even after the trade, he still doesn't have a starting job.
Steals a lot of bases.
Lenny,
what?
He wants you to know that he steals a lot of bases. Thanks. I'm not finished talking about him yet. He struggled during his multiple stints in the majors last season, but he did put up a solid .272 with a .362 on base percentage across 276 plate appearances at Triple-A. He strikes out a lot more in the majors than he does in the minors, and yes, he can steal some bases. He's a switch hitting utility man. He has not found success in the majors. I did note in my tidbits here that he only struck out in the minors about 18%. He struck out like 30 when he first attempted to hit in the majors. He still struck out 22.8% in the majors last year, but that was the lowest strikeout rate so far of his career at the major league level. He was once a top prospect. He's a Dominican Republic native. He was a top 10 prospect in a very strong Rays baseball system. He ranked in the back half of Baseball America's top 100 overall minor league talents between 19 and 22. 2019 to 2022. He is praised for his speed. He has bat-to-ball skills when he's not striking out, of course, and he is flexible defensively. So, what do we do? Do you think he's going to get an opportunity? Even with the trade, he might get more of an opportunity, but honestly, I just don't see drafting him in fantasy. Not yet, anyway. We'll see if he looks great in spring, that's one thing, but the kid has done nothing at the major league level, and I just don't see him getting that much more playing time with the Marlins than he did with the Rays. That's just my opinion. All right, another guy on the list that Turd brought up is Nick Senzel, non-tendered by the Cincinnati Reds. What do you think, J.R. Matz, about Nick Senzel leaving? He said it was an honor to play for the Reds, but it's really not surprising that they non-tendered him. He has shown some improvement over the years, and I'll tell you what Turd said. He says that he sees Nick Senzel as a reclamation project for those pesky Dodgers. Where's Danny? Captain Danny sleeping in today? What do you think about Nick Senzel? He has shown some improvement over the last couple seasons. The Atlanta Braves acquired Aaron Bummer from the White Sox on Thursday. They sent 5 players, including Mike Soroka, Jared Schuster, Braden Shoemake, Nicky Lopez, and Riley Gowans. Bummer had a 6.79 ERA in 61 appearances last season, but he did have a 3.58 FIP, okay, and a whole lot of missed bats. Bummer is great against left-handed pitchers. 78 strikeouts, but 36 walks in 58 and a third innings. But that equals 12 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's 30 years old. He had a 3.14 ERA in 94 appearances during the 2021 and 22 seasons. 105 strikeouts and 39 walks in 83 appearances and only 5 home runs allowed. He's held lefties to a career 199 batting average. Okay, only allowed 3 homers with 118 strikeouts and 426 plate appearances over 7 seasons with the White Sox. Now Atlanta's going to pay him $5.5 million next season, which is the last guaranteed year of his contract, and have team options worth $7.25 million in 2025 and $7.5 million in 2026. Adding Bummer is a great addition for the Braves. I'm not trying to tell you to draft him in fantasy, but the Braves now have 4 lefties, okay, in their bullpen, along with Minter, Dylan Lee, and Tyler Matzik, right? Now, Soroka, a former top prospect who was an all-star as a rookie in 2019, he might be a decent fantasy ad late in drafts. He missed most of 3 seasons recovering from a twice-torn Achilles, okay? And he had a 6.4 ERA in 7 games for the Braves last season, all right? He did do okay at AAA, 3.41 ERA in 17 starts at AAA. But he is out of options now, and Atlanta would have faced a non-tender decision with him on Friday, so they quickly got rid of him. Schuster, who's 25, was a Braves first-round pick in 2020. He made his MLB debut last season and posted a 5.81 ERA and 11 starts with 30 strikeouts, get this, 26 walks, okay, in 52 and 2/3 innings. He was pretty good. I mean, I thought he would be better, okay, but he got passed up by some other Braves prospects, all right? Now, Shoemake, he's going to be 26 tomorrow. He was also a first-round Braves draft pick in 2019, but his development stalled last season at AAA. He competed along with Vaughn Grissom for the opening day shortstop job last spring, but both lost out to Orlando Arcia, who went on to make the National League All-Star team. Now, Grissom has had an outstanding season at AAA Gwinnett, sharing shortstop and second base duties with Shoemake. Shoemake only hit .234 with the .299 on base percentage in 122 games, and he pretty much looked nervous and overmatched in 2 games during a brief call-up with the Braves. Nicky Lopez. Price tag in arbitration was expected to be about $4 million, so he was also a non-tender candidate after coming over from the Kansas City Royals in a trade deadline deal. He played well in limited duties for the Braves late last season, but has pretty much been a bust, okay, since he started. Nicky Lopez, all right, came up like 4 or 5 years ago. Everybody went out and spent like all their free agent money on him. He was one of the call-ups that came up. He was part of a big group of prospects that everybody spent all their money on, and he hasn't done much. And then the final player, Gowins, 24, a 9th-round pick in the 2023 draft. He had a combined 1.15 ERA in 5 games, including 3 starts in rookie ball and low-A Augusta. 22 strikeouts and only 6 walks. Well, 6 walks is a lot in only 15 and 2/3. Oh, we somehow spoke of Sheffield in that Bauer unload. Sheffield is 55 today. Happy birthday to Gary Sheffield. This is the father, Gary Sheffield Sr. The good stuff, you guys. What are we doing? Ending it up? I got to go to the grocery store today. It's probably going to be a freaking nightmare at the grocery store since everybody's getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Great job.
I want to wish all of you a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're having Chinese food this year. I hope our local Chinese place is open on Thanksgiving. Aren't they known for being open on Thanksgiving, right? All right. Love it. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for sticking with me in the chat room. I hope everybody has a great weekend and a wonderful day. Lenny and I will be back tomorrow for Lady and the Legend, 9 a.m. sharp. Be there or be square.